to welcome each and every individual to Voices of Integrity podcast for marriages. And wow, this podcast almost didn't happen. It's just on the tipping point. This is definitely one for the books for sure. It's resolving conflict. And so the title of this one is going to be Weaponization. Now, I want to thank my nephew, Josh Boersma. So I appreciate you, Josh. Call out to you, buddy. He's the first one that introduced me to weaponization. He might have said I was weaponizing something. I'm like, what? Like, what's that? I don't even know what that is. Anyways, but I've since become very, very familiar with it. And so, Rosanna, where did you get your skills? Like, how do you are like the master of the weaponry. How do you learn how to do that? Is that just genetic within women? Like they're just born and bred to kind of weaponize things, or how's that work? Or is that your personality?
I think it's something to do with the personality, because I don't know that we actually want to weaponize, but when it comes to the point where, well, we don't have anything else that we can battle, we pull it out. So maybe we didn't.
Just so I'm understanding this, the amiable, doesn't want to go ahead and weaponize things. They just don't have anything better to do. They get bored and they're like, let's pull the weapons out.
No. I was thinking more, it doesn't bother us until something bothers, somebody says it bothers them. And then all of a sudden, whatever didn't bother us bothers us.
So I don't know if you're all getting the visualization that I am.
Me, I'm irritated with you.
What's that?
So we're not irritated with somebody until they're irritated with us.
I don't think that's entirely accurate, actually. I think it's more like we don't pull out the weapons of war until somebody says something that we don't like. They're not angry or upset. They just say something we don't like. Like, did you go ahead and turn the stove off? Wham! Boom! Like, did you forget to go ahead and do this? Like anything that seems to go ahead and like we watched this comedy show. I apologize. I don't remember which comedian it was. And I'm like, you got to be kidding. That's a real thing. So he was talking about his wife is a similar personality to me. So, and Rosanna, I think, is a similar personality to him. And so, he doesn't care really about money or waste or anything. I'm not saying Rosanna's like that. I'm just saying she's similar to him. And so, and he was really dissing his wife there. I mean, it was pretty interesting. But he said that he did his own clothes, like did his own washing. And he literally said, ooh, that's a good one. I'm going to save that for a fight. And he said he saved it. I think he said for 6 months. So he weaponized that. And it's funny because he said, I had her pinned. Like I knew I'm going to bring out the big weapon. And that is, I do my own laundry. Like, really? Like, it's a thing. And so, like, you'd think around Christmas time and, the birth of Jesus and, all the holiday stuff and all the stuff that, we want to have a beautiful Christmas and a peaceful and harmonious one. And so Rosanna weaponized, like she did something about there were lights and it was blowing a circuitry or something. And I said something, which I don't even remember. But I said something in front of other people and that she felt bad. And she waited like 2 or 3 weeks to weaponize that. I'm like, what? It was weird to me. Like it was weird. And then she weaponized a sunrise too. Like who weaponizes a sunrise? She did. So again, I know all of you out there are like, oh, that poor guy. He's just, none of you do that. Because the amiable, even when they weaponize and blow you to smithereens with, lights and, Christmas lights, or a sunrise, you'd think like, man, that's some pretty crazy napalm, like nuclear stuff. Like you shouldn't do that with your husband. But what are all the women thinking? He deserved it. That's just they stick together like it's like hunting packs of wolves. And what do all the men do? The men go, "Yeah, I'm not going to stick up for him. I'm going to watch him. Maybe if maybe if I watch him crash and burn, then then it'll take the focus off of me and my wife will be nice to me." So when I saw the comedian, I'm like, this is the real thing. And then I had two of those back to back things. And I've thought about this a lot. Anybody have any thoughts on this?
I think um, I'm learning a little bit more about myself, you talking about this, because it seems that, you know, I didn't realize until the last couple months that I actually did that, like weaponized. I just thought, well, it didn't bother me before, but, I didn't talk about it. So,
This is
like
what
the
she
other
was
day,
really thinking. This is what she was really thinking. She was thinking, I'm such a nice person because I didn't call him out on this. And I am such a great wife because I didn't call him out on this. And oh my goodness, I am such an amazing woman because I didn't call him. So what she's doing is she's got this emotional war chest. Like when you see Mr. and Mrs. Smith and they open up the kitchen cabinets and there's all the this is what she does, you know and I'm not saying it's negative. I mean, it's kind of cool. Like, it's like it's like, whoa, there's a lot there. um so what she's doing is she's thinking, hey, I'm a really good person because I'm not saying this, I'm not saying this, I'm not saying this, I'm not saying this, I'm not doing this. And so all of a sudden the self-righteousness just peaks. Like it just gets to be way high, like super, super high in the quantum feeling model. And then it's strange because like like she goes ahead. It's interesting. I mean, I should be consider myself privileged for sure because she can be mad at anybody and it's taken out on me. It's okay. That just makes me a good husband, like, right? Like a real man. But she can be mad at herself for doing something. She can be mad at me. I mean, most of the time she's mad at herself, the kids, or somebody else. And all of a sudden she opens up this war chest and she's like, 2 weeks ago there was a sunrise. What? Like, like, and you tick me off. I don't know even what you're talking about. So I think, like again, this comedian, I'm glad I watched this because it dawned on me. I'm like, you got like he did it on purpose. He was aware. He's like, I'm going to save this one up because I'm going to win this war against my wife. And after he said that, I leveled her. Like I knew I was going to win this argument because he says he never wins argument. Rosanna feels like that too. And so I know I'm going to win. And he says, I bring this up, and you know what? There's a whole new war that comes out because of it. He says, I never even realized that. Anybody have any thoughts on it? We need more than just women on here. Are women the only ones? Are women and me the only ones interested in marriages, like having a better marriage? Like, where are all the men? Probably saying, Mark, they have real jobs. They have to put food on the table, right? That's what I'm saying. Other questions or thoughts?
so what do we do with this?
Well, this is an adult. This is, for married couples. So I don't know, turn it into TJJS or something. I don't know. Like, it's just weird to me. Like, just like I've been aware of this for some time now. I'm like, I can feel when she wants to have a fight. I remember when, our son in law, Jason, who's married to Melissa. Like they've been married, I think, 7 years. And I remember just a few months after they got married, he said to me, he's like, Dad, like literally wants to get in a fight. She says she wants to get in a fight. What do I do? I'm like, I don't know. She's your wife. Like, and it's like I didn't know at that time. I don't know when I've known for a little while, maybe a couple years. I've known for a little while that, like, my wife says she doesn't like conflict. And it finally dawned on me, for somebody who doesn't like conflict, she brings on a lot of conflict. Like, it's just weird. It's almost like somebody who says, I don't want a war, and then they always are doing things that create wars. And it's like, so what do we do with it? I don't know. Maybe others on have some ideas. Melissa, you have any ideas?
No, I do not.
Find a more creative way to discuss it instead of creating a war.
Yeah, I've tried that. That doesn't work.
Well, it's interesting because, you know, there are certain things, I won't go into details, it's not that much of an adult show. There are certain things that Rosanna enjoys. So I try to go ahead, say, if we have an adult conversation, like you have a problem with me. So last night we tried this out. And it's like, so she was frustrated, over Christmas Eve, Christmas. She was frustrated about, like, I don't know, 3 things, let's say.
What were the 3 things?
Does it matter?
Yes. Yes, it does.
I mean, I have no problem going there, but out of consideration for Rosanna, I might not go there. And so,
All right, Mom, know that you're getting a call after this call.
So I go ahead and she'll miss the whole big picture. Like she'll go in, like this is what the analytic does. They go into the micro picture and they miss the whole big picture of the whole thing. So the big picture is, so we had this conversation and I didn't apologize to her because I don't see where I'm wrong. And so, she will apologize to me, but won't change. I won't apologize because, if I'm not wrong, she'll just, as a reflex, I'm sorry. Like, it's cold outside. Wow, I'm sorry about that. Like, it's just weird to me. Anyways, and so to me, it's and I've tested this over the last year or so. Like, do you have any issues with me? No. Do you have any issues with our marriage? No, everything's fine. Okay. So you're totally good. Yep, totally good. I mean, there's nothing, nope. You're amazing husband. You're a 10. You're absolutely like the best. Okay, good. Got it. And then it's like, honey, I think you might be able to do a little better in this area with the kids or grandkids or with the accounting or the household or something. Like there's a suggestion that I give to her, and all of a sudden the war chest comes open. Mrs. Smith comes out ablazing. Like, it's like, I thought you said there was nothing wrong. It's weird. It's like there's a Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde in there, and the Dr. Jekyll or Mr. Hyde, whichever one is the evil twin, it comes out and it's like, huh. So we had the conversation about the 3 things. I thought it went really good, and there wasn't an apology. It was just a conversation. And we had this conversation about these things. Now, will she bring them up later? I don't think she will. I think she thinks that they're resolved now. Now, that doesn't mean I'm not going to be more sensitive about these 3 things in the future. Like, so I might be sensitive about these 3 things in the future. So, that's what's interesting too, is that certain spouses will apologize and never change. Other spouses won't apologize, but they're still going to change. It's interesting. Other questions or thoughts?
Yeah, I
So
think that
go ahead.
hearing, I think that communicating, so it's kind of like a wound, whereas if you don't work on it, then it gets worse. And then maybe an infection starts and then things go crazy. So communicating it, to me, I hate to bring things up because I'm like, great, it's going to be an argument. But if I'm not in an argument when I'm bringing it up, then it shouldn't be an argument.
Right, or your subconscious might be, your conscious is, I don't want to get in an argument. And your subconscious is, it's pretty fun to argue with Mark. Like, I want to argue with him. I'm going to save this for later. Subconsciously, I'm saying. It would
Or
explain a lot over our 40 years of marriage. It would explain a lot.
It is interesting how the couple things that bothered me led to the third thing really bothering me, and it just kept building up. And where it was, I don't know that the third thing would even have bothered me had the first two things not been sitting there. So I think it just kept going, and all of a sudden it was like this mountain. And I'm like, I don't think I can get out from underneath that mountain without communicating something. So that's why the question was, what's petty and what's not? And that's how it got to the point where I was like, I need to discuss this because it's just sitting there. It's
Yeah,
just,
it's funny because she said, "How do you know if something's petty or not?" I said, "I don't know." So I don't know that I've ever used the word petty in an argument in 40 years. Like, I don't think I've ever said in an argument, "You're being petty." Not once. In 40 years, I don't think I've ever used that word. Correct me if I'm wrong.
I don't think you have.
So it's weird to me that she would even come up with that because it's not like one of my things. It's not like what you're doing is petty. Like, and the three things afterwards, I'm said, I don't see any of those as being petty. Not one of them. Those are legitimate things that you're talking about. They hurt you, or you had questions, or you were frustrated, or whatever you were. It's okay for you to feel that way. Here's some additional thoughts about that. Here's some additional things to consider. You did say, by the time you got to the third thing, you wondered if you were actually looking for something to go ahead and be angry with me.
Right. I did. I was already, it was simmering. That's the word. And it got to the point where it was almost a full boil.
Right. And so being self aware, like you say, good question. What do we do about this? One is you be self aware. When I go ahead and say, are there any issues? I mean, if there are issues, I shouldn't have to ask, I don't think. If there's issues, you go ahead and say, hey, I have this issue, this issue, this issue. Okay, let's talk about it. Let's talk about these situations.
Right.
So when you have a gas leak in your house, that's not the time to go ahead and light a match. Like, it's just not. And with a driver analytic, you know, just, you know, you bring out your war chest, that's probably not going to go well with a driver analytic. And you're going to feel like you lost the war. Well, how about we just don't get into a war? How about if we just talk about it like adults, and here's your thoughts. Okay, here's my thoughts. And we just have a conversation. You, like, if you're listening to this, you're like, is this a newlywed? Like, if these guys been married for 2 or 3 months? No, 40 years. And we still haven't figured this thing out. It's crazy to me. Like, it's just weird. It's just weird. Anybody else have any other thoughts, questions, ideas?
I was just curious, when this type of thing happens, Rosanna, do you feel like it's out of control, like you don't have any control over it anymore, and that's why you feel the need to lash out, or like try and help me explain, or explain to try and help me understand.
Okay, so having it sit there, I'm already on edge, and I can feel it moving.
No, you're on
And
edge.
yeah, I can feel it. I'm on edge by that third time. So I'm already on edge, and I wake up on edge, and all of a sudden something will be said to me that, well, you didn't do this, or you should have done this, or did you see this? Or I'm like, that's when I'm like, well, yeah. And then it goes from there. It's like,
When she says
I'm,
that, when she says that, so what she's talking about is this one situation. I think it would be good to talk about the global, but it's okay. It's this one situation, because if we can get this one. Anyways, she's talking about one situation. When she goes ahead and then switches over and she says, when he says this, she kind of positions it, you did something wrong. That's not how it's presented. It's presented more like the, nail in the head. Do you think that maybe there could be a little better way? It doesn't matter how it's presented, soft, gentle, anything, and it's just the claws are coming out.
it's like sandpaper on wood, and so I'm feeling it, and I don't like it, and so I don't like it. You're not going to like me, and then it goes from there. And so having a conversation the other day, I knew it, I could feel it, and so part of the night before, I wrote down, I need to have a walk with you, and so I knew I needed to talk, and so I'm trying to figure out how to avoid this weaponization that I do, because I can see it, it's coming, and I'm not like
When she says that, just so everybody knows, it's one time.
right.
All previous times, she's not even aware. I mean, it's
I'm not aware,
nowhere.
but I'm starting to be aware because it's something that I wanted to come into the new year. Is I want to figure out how I'm not doing, why I'm doing this, and so I am. The last couple times when you pulled out and you said, I started to say something, she was weapon, that just infuriated me. But nonetheless, it was like, well, I guess it is a weapon. And I guess I want to figure out how I'm not going to do this. So I'm trying to figure me out.
Elaine, does that help you a lot?
Helps me a little. I'm just wondering, like your time frame, do you let it go on too long? Do you let it simmer too long? Like when you start feeling the simmer, do you shut it off already there, or do you let it just simmer and then it boils?
I let it simmer because I don't think I want it to boil. But then if something is presented to me, then all of a sudden, yeah, I want it to boil because I'm mad.
So
But if you
she goes from 0 to 60. She goes from 0 to
3.5 seconds.
100 faster than Tesla does. Like,
All of a sudden, it's not fine. It's fine, and all of a sudden, it's not fine. And so, yeah, I want to figure that out. I do, but it's hard because I sometimes it's like something really didn't bother me, and all of a sudden, man, I'm mad about that. Why did I? And so that's what I want to figure out because Mark said I need to be more self-aware of what's going on with me because I don't feel it. Like even today, he leaves and I got ready to sit. I'm like, bye. And he says, you were a little on edge. And I'm like, I guess yeah, but I don't know why. So it's like, okay, could it have been because of the call in the morning, the 7 o'clock call that I was called out like 3 times? Could it have been that? And so I'm like, okay, but I can't. So am I weaponizing already? That makes sense?
Yeah, that makes sense. Yep.
so to me, to me, and again, we've worked together in business. So she was 19, I was 20 when we got married. We went to college together, and then we had businesses together. And so we've worked together our whole married life. We had a client that,
Pretty much 7,
sorry, you're all garbled.
24/7.
Yeah. So, and so one of our clients on the East Coast went ahead and said, Mark, you worked with your wife. I'm working with mine. Is it even worth it? Like, how do you do it? I'm like, right? I don't know the answer to that. That's probably
I'm just
eight.
gonna be going into this, so I need all the advice I could get.
Yeah, it's not easy. It's just not easy. And so I don't know. I mean, my uncle Gary, he said, the thing about your wife and your kids, Mark, they know where they stand with you. So the driver personality seems like they're the mean one. Shoot, the kids will even make up stories like slamming doors or arguments and yelling. And it's like that never happened. Not the yelling, maybe. I don't know. But the slamming doors, I can say with confidence, never happened. And so the driver gets the brunt of it. It seems like to me in a relationship. Everybody blames the driver. Whatever, you know. But it seems like amiable, like you don't know where you stand with them. They don't even know where they stand with themselves. It's like they're it's like they're kind of clueless. Like they think of themselves as being really, really good people. And they're just as mean and nasty, if not more so, than the other three personalities. But they're nice to everybody, so everybody's nice to them. But are they nice? Is not being honest with people, is that nice? Not being truthful with people, is that nice? Giving people what they want all the time, is that nice? Like, so it looks like they're nice. And so they actually, in their own mind, I really think that the amiable in their own mind thinks they're better than everybody else. I really do. Really, really do. Questions?
I think it comes to a limit on the nice part. So we get to a point where we're been nice, been nice, been nice, and like, I've given you this much room. Why can't you give me this much room?
So what they miss in that is they think of themselves as better than everybody else. They think, well, I'm giving him this, and I'm giving him this, and I'm giving her this, and I'm giving her this. So the amiable thinks, I'm a nice person, and that person doesn't have any issues with me, but I have issues with them. And it doesn't even cross their mind that they're as irritated with you about as many things or more things. They've forgiven you, overlooked things. They go ahead and do that as much or more than you are. And it never even crosses their mind. It's almost like their mind, like Peter Schmidt. It's the funniest thing. Like I'd been friends with him for 20 years and we were talking and he says, you're a hard friend to have. I'm like, right? So the driver, I guess, understands that. They're like, yeah, I get it. I tell people that what they don't want to hear. I get it. That's hard. And I said, I don't like you. I don't like you're a man, you're a pain of a friend. And he was stunned. He's like, really? Like it had never even crossed his mind that he irritates the living daylights out of me. And so it builds up. It's like they just it's just weird. It's just weird. Other thoughts or questions?
This has been good.
So, so hopefully this is helpful to people. Um, how do I say it? The driver seems to be one that kind of doesn't care what people think. So whatever, people can think whatever they want to think. The amiable seems to care a lot about what people think about them.
Do you
And
think
so,
if there's a woman driver, do you think the the woman could potentially maybe um blow up as a amiable at times because she's a woman and there's too
for
much of the woman factor in
oh,
there?
15, 20 years, I've, probably over 15 years, maybe 20 years ago, I was doing some work with some high school students, and a 17-year-old young lady said that. She said, Mark, what's the difference between a driver analytic woman and a driver analytic man? And I said, I'm not sure, but there is a difference. So for 20 years, I've wondered that. And so there is, if you have the exact same, so you and I are very similar in personality, but yet you're a woman. So there is a difference. I mean, you've got that little amiable edge about you. So if we didn't have that, it'd be better. We could tell. But I do believe if you were the exact same personality as I am, that you're still a woman. There is a woman factor that does come in. And I don't know what that looks like or what that means or how that works. I'm not sure. So, yes, an answer to your question. It'd be cool to find out.
I think there's a bad part of, well, I shouldn't say bad, but I think there's like a maybe a too much of a woman part in there, like
See, I
escalates too fast, maybe.
that what?
Said it maybe escalates too fast at times.
See, so the thing is, like with Rosanna, it seems like what I've learned, I'm not saying it's the right thing I've learned, but it's like if I don't keep out in front of her, um, I mean, like I was trained as a boy, you never touch a woman, you never hit her, you just don't. Like you just can't. Like it's wired in me from a little boy. But I can see why men hit women. I can see it. There's never an excuse. That's never appropriate, ever. Like it's never appropriate. But if I wasn't trained from a little boy, you know, she makes me so angry. If I didn't have the deep training as a little boy, I could see me hitting her without question. Man, she ticks me off. I mean, she just absolutely infuriates me. And so I don't know. I don't know.
Elaine wants to be a fly on the wall in our house.
Pretty sure she might not. I don't know. See, the thing is, it's weird to me, Elaine. Like we went to that, honor and love and respect. They got a book out and everything. And I really am wondering if women, they just want attention. But that's what's weird. It's like we go on walks every day. We have date nights every Friday. We go to concerts. Like we have so much free time, fun time, talk time. Like we have so much time together, and it's not work. It's just hanging out, talking, like having fun or relax. It's just whatever. And it still doesn't work. It's almost like the more she gets, the more she wants, the more she expects.
Do you think that's with all the personalities of women or just certain ones?
Well, for the women, just to be clear, I think there's men that do this same thing. Like there was a guy that I was talking to. Has since gotten divorced after 30 years of marriage. And his wife's told him once, no matter how much I give you in sex, it's never enough. You always want more sex or more sexual things. It's never enough. And so I think with some husbands, there's another husband that comes to mind, and I think he just wants attention. And it's like a little boy. Like he's going to get attention in school, and it's either going to be because he's a star student or he's going to be because he's a troublemaker. He doesn't really care what attention he gets. He just wants attention. And so I don't want to make this sound like, because I've seen it with men too. And I've seen what I don't consider as women. So I'm not sure on that, but we're talking about women. When we're talking about women, we're not necessarily talking about just women, just for women's. I mean, men, you know, and it seems like to me, as I see younger men and younger husbands and younger fathers, I'm seeing more of this. It seems like I don't remember, and Rosanna validates, like, yep, no, you weren't like that. And it's just weird to me on what it is. And so I think that, when you look at the quantum feeling model, when you look at the quantum feeling model, um, and entitlement, self-righteousness, and victimhood, and they all connect together. Like I can see and feel when Rosanna's becoming a victim. Something just didn't happen right the way she wanted it to. Like her dishwasher, like all of a sudden, and then all of a sudden she gets to entitlement. Like I deserve this because I'm such a good person. These three things, absolutely, it's like they're intertwined and they're nuclear and they all connect together. And the inoculation is thankfulness and humility and ownership. Like I do wonder if somebody were to clean up my messes, if I would go ahead and be entitled, self-righteous, and like if I had a wife that would clean up my messes, would I become an entitled, self-righteous victim? Like a wuss of a man. Like, like when I was first
Even
introduced.
though you would have the driver personality.
Well, I do. I think like I could feel it when I was introduced a year ago when I was 59, and my brother Ken and my son Ben both said at the same time, like right in the same period of time, that Ben said, "Your feelings matter, Dad." And my brother said, "Your feelings matter." And I didn't know for 59 years that my feelings did matter, honestly. Women have a hard time believing it, but it's like I didn't know. I just forgive the French, forgive the swear. But I just got the shit beat out of me. I just got the crap beat out of me by everybody, my wife, my kids, business. It's all part of being a man. This is, you're a man. This is what it is. You signed up for being a husband, and this is just what it is. And it's not victimhood. It's just, this is what it is. And you just take it. You just take the pounding. Don't complain. Don't whine, because nobody's going to care. Nobody's going to care about what you've gone through and what your wife has said or done or your kids have said and done to hurt you. Nobody cares about you. You are a man. You're a white male. You're over 50 years old. Nobody cares about you. And so I'm like, well, why don't I try this experiment about feelings? And I could feel the addiction coming over me. I'm like, wow, now I understand why people like feelings. Like feelings you can use to manipulate people, get what you want in life. Like, you made me feel bad. Like, you made me this. Like, my feelings are this and this. Like, I remember once, it was probably 2 years ago, we were in a kind of an experimental test thing. And this guy, psychologist guy, I don't know, I raised my voice at him or something. And he says, "Good, Mark. Now your inner child is coming out." I'm like, "You're right. My inner child's coming out. It's going to beat the crap out of your inner child." Like, I'm just telling you. And so I think that feelings, they're addictive. Entitlement is addictive. Self-righteousness is addictive. And victimhood is addictive. These three are easy to have. Thankfulness, when things are going rough, is hard. It's just hard work. Humility, when things are going good, like you're on top of the world. Humility is hard. Taking ownership when things are really bad, really hard, really messy, it's just hard. These three things here are hard work. These three things in here are easy. It's easy for a child to go ahead and be entitled, self-righteous, and victim. It's hard to teach a child to be thankful, humble, and take ownership. So the human condition, and the more you get into entitlement, self-righteousness, and victim, it's like literally, I think it does to your brain what alcohol or drugs do. I really do. Questions?
No, it makes a lot of sense. You have a call in 10 minutes.
No, I'm good. Elaine, Mary Jo, Melissa.
No, it makes sense.
Kind of. Like, I think we're close to a breakthrough. See, the thing that, like the victimhood, if you're blaming somebody else, you are giving up your power to control your future, your destiny. You're accepting that you are going to be in this state forever. If it's your parents' fault, your spouse's fault, your children's fault, your parents' fault, the boss's fault, the country's fault, if it's somebody else's fault or responsibility, you are giving up control of your own life. You're giving up the ability to change and grow, and you're accepting that you're going to be in this state for the rest of your life. You just are. You're going to be in poverty. I'm not talking financial, only financial. I'm talking spiritual, emotional, relational, moral, financial, like all of those things. I'm talking all of those things you're accepting. You're going to be there the rest of your life when you blame somebody else.
That's just not acceptable.
Right? But it's easy in the short term. It's easier. It just is. And, I mean, with kids, you can see it. It's like, Mom, it's his fault. Like, it's her fault. It's just easier to do that. And if it doesn't get, the longer you go, the more it gets embedded into you, where it just becomes a reflex. And it's like drugs. It's just like drugs. You have to have more to get the same high. And then it's like your identity gets swallowed up in all kinds of goofiness. And you lose who you are. And I think you make a conscious or subconscious choice to say, I am not going to be who I was created to be. And when somebody goes down that path, they destroy themselves and everything around them. It's a sad thing. So, well, this has been really good, Melissa. Thanks for motivating us, keeping us on track. Like, this one wouldn't have happened. Like, man, this thing had a lot of fire in it today. So pass this along to other people. The weaponization of things. Somebody get this out to Josh Borsman too. Say, you came up on a podcast. Uncle Mark was really thankful. to you for introducing him to that concept. Like it was helpful. He started, this was before, this year where I couldn't connect the dots. Like all of a sudden I see these different pieces. If you have any questions, connect with the individual who invited you, or you can call toll free 888-230-2300. Outside the US, 630-393-9909. And always remember, we can accomplish so much more together than we ever could on our own. Have an amazing day. Bye-bye.